Emisiunea noastră de astăzi are următoarea temă, Spațiul Spiritului. Doamna doctor, cum percepem noi că suntem de fapt spirit?
Păi, suntem spirit, am spus, suntem spirit încarnat. Acum suntem suflete. Ce trebuie să înțelegem noi este că în această încarnare, deci noi suntem un spirit și în fiecare încarnare e un suflet care se desfășoară. Practic, dacă noi am înțelege că suntem suflete și că toți oamenii cu care relaționăm noi sunt suflete, atunci s-ar schimba cumva, ar fi o altă perspectivă relațională. Adică, să vă dau un exemplu, la nivel de minte, la nivel de ego, dumneavoastră cu mine sau cu cei din jur putem să ajungem în diverse conflicte și să împărțim ce? Bani, femei, să împărțim averi, să ajungem în situații conflictuale și să ajungem să ne dăm în cap. Când vorbim într-o perspectivă sufletească, dacă noi știm că am fi două suflete, trebuie să știți că sufletele nu mai ajung în conflict. Acolo cuvântul de ordine este iubire, acolo cuvântul de ordine este iertare. Deci noi, din păcate, nu mai suntem prezenți de aspectul sufletesc al nostru, intrăm în matricea ego-ului care ne domină, suntem la închisoare, cum ar veni, și atunci trebuie să știți că lucrăm decât din ego și nu înțelegem. Pentru că dacă am lucrat din suflet, am vorbit despre iertări, am vorbit despre iubiri. Pe de altă parte, vedeți dumneavoastră, perspectiva asta sufletească ar însemna să nu judecăm oamenii. Perspectiva sufletească ar însemna chiar să ne iubim proprii dușmani, adică să nu-i judecăm și mai ales pe semeni, că pe unii nici nu-i cunoaștem și îi judecăm, da? Bun, acum, noi am venit deci să învățăm, să iertăm și să nu ridicăm, să nu aruncăm cu piatra, înțelegeți? Și noi ce facem? Facem exact pe dos.
When somebody asks you what you are, you will say, well, I'm a human. But you say that because everybody agrees that what human represent. Oh, I'm energy, I'm light. But what is the truth? The truth is that you don't even know what you are. You know that you are, that's true. But do you really know what you are? Do you think you know what you are? I don't think so.
I have woken up in other people's bodies, where I know I'm not in my own body, where I'm looking through another person's eyes and looking out at the world that they see, and it ain't me that I'm seeing.
Well, it turns out that 50 years ago, we couldn't even think of this. It's a strange idea. 30 years ago, you couldn't talk about it over the dinner table. But what's happening now?
Now, you set the intention to find something and to align with something, it's going to come into your existence.
Knowing that I am a soul and that all of the people that I interrelate with are souls completely alters my perspective of how to live life day by day and moment by moment.
How do you give them that knowledge, or how do they come to know for themselves that there's more?
I see a dumbing down of America right now. It's a dumbing down that I do not think is best. I think it is appeal to our lowest nature as opposed to our highest nature.
Humankind, mankind, consciousness itself is evolving into something that it wasn't before. And we're part of that. We're one of those cogs in the wheel on the evolution of human consciousness.
What we're evolving into is what we as human beings create. It's an evolving process. We're in a total
process that's evolving all the time, and that we are part of the creation of it.
As all civilizations before us have asked the question, who are we, how did we get here, and what is this really all about? Our scientific cosmology at that point, and even today, suggests that it's all a cosmic accident. And of course, opposing that is the Idealist Cosmology, which says that consciousness is the fundamental stuff, and that all matter arose from concepts in consciousness. So here we had what science was telling us about our origins, and our traditions, normally our religious traditions.
I draw a distinction between spirituality and religion. A religion is when a group encodes certain beliefs and traditions, and an individual is either born into that group or joins that group and adopts those beliefs and traditions for their own. A path that's spiritual is often more individual, where someone might even be a member of a religious group but then has a profound experience, such as a near-death experience or a personal mystical experience of the divine, and then the religion doesn't fit anymore. It doesn't necessarily mean the religion is wrong. It's just that people are having a more direct experience in which it's not so much belief anymore but an actual knowing, or what I call faith.
Always my interest in magic is what keeps me going into the study of the weird stuff like life after death and who's the big G? Is there a big G? Or is it just all a big law of the universe that we exist like this?
They put an image of God like a very old man with long beard, or like a human with the head of an elephant. You see, all those traditions projects what they believe is God, and it's obviously it's just mythology. Even that mythology, it came because represents something that was true, and now what the religion project is images that have nothing to do really with God.
We are in true nature sitting around a campfire with the light of God shining upon us. Behind us in the forest are dancing silhouettes of our persons sitting around the fire of God, the light of God radiating, and it is the shadows, the silhouettes on the forest behind us. Those dancing silhouettes are what we are now in the physical body. There's no substance to them, no permanence to them, they're just dancing silhouettes. The true, permanent, solid reality is us sitting around the light of God.
Doamna doctor, dacă noi am conștientizat faptul că suntem spirite, care ar fi realitatea noastră și, de fapt, cum ar trebui să funcționăm?
Da, este foarte interesantă întrebarea, pentru că de cele mai multe ori, spunem așa, vorbim teoretic, dar nu aplicăm în practică. Dacă ar fi să aplicăm în practică, trebuie să știți că dacă am venit să funcționăm ca spirite, ca suflete aici și funcționăm la nivel de conștiință și simți că suntem de fapt scântei divine, atunci limbajul nostru comun ar fi iubirea. Deci noi asta trebuie să spunem pe gură. Știți, dacă vorbim în matrice, noi și prin și în matrice, noi am vorbit aici despre judecăți, despre agresivitate, asta ar fi limbajul în matrice. Dacă noi transcendem matricea și înțelegem să nu ne mai domine, noi trebuie să vorbim alt limbaj, adică practic e total opus. Ar trebui să ne resetăm, să ne schimbăm cu 180 de grade. Ce spunem noi pe gură și cum gândim, dacă noi conștientizăm că suntem ființe spirituale. Deci ar trebui să vorbim despre iubire și despre iertare. Pentru că, uitați, deci reperul spiritual este Isus. Și Iisus ce a spus? El a spus în felul următor, că noi trebuie să iubim pe dușmanii noștri, asta a spus El pe cruce. Iartă-i, Doamne, că nu știu ce fac. Ăsta este limbajul. Uitați, de exemplu, ca să dăm un caz concret, noi trecem acum în România printr-o perioadă de încercări sociale foarte mari. Știți acest lucru. Trăim după Revoluție și înainte, dar în general acum, în perioada asta. Suntem mai ales un popor creștin. Deci noi suntem un pic mai spirituali decât alții aici. Că știți, sunt popoare și popoare. Acum, într-un popor creștin, iertarea este întâiul cuvânt ca și credința. Credința e de bază, adică ar trebui să se învețe în școală și se învață în școală. Acum, ne confruntăm pe scena socială, din păcate, cu agresiune și cu judecăți. Acestea sunt ale matricei, sunt ale ego-ului. Înțelegeți? Pentru că asta avem, știți? Avem așa ceva. Ne judecăm unii pe alții. Sistemul social este făcut și ce auzim? Mă scuzați că suntem la o televiziune, dumneavoastră știți, ce auzim la televizor este că ne judecăm unii pe alții. Ne băgăm semeni în cuști ca pe animale. Sistemul acesta social îl avem. Pentru lucruri și fapte pe care în alte vieți le-am făcut și noi, că nu știu dacă știți, că noi când venim aici în încarnări repetate, noi să știți că venim într-o viață, știți câte încarnări are un suflet, un spirit în suflete multe, mii de încarnări, 4.000 așa, 10.000, milioane, adică foarte multe încarnări. Trebuie să știți că noi de fiecare dată venim în diverse ipostaze. Câteodată venim să fim criminali. Câteodată venim să fim hoți. Câteodată venim... Că de ce? De ce venim? De ce venim așa? Venim ca să păcătuim, ca să trăim acele experiențe, ca să putem să învățăm ceva. De fapt, sunt niște lecții. Deci s-ar putea că dacă în viața asta tu ești o persoană foarte corectă și o persoană așa, în altă viață tu să fi fost un criminal. Da. Și atunci trebuie să știți că noi toți trecem prin aceste, uneori venim cerșetori. Înțelegeți ce înseamnă că ești cerșetor? Când vii cerșetor înseamnă că tu ești cumva într-o perioadă în care n-ai înțeles lecțiile tale și ești o persoană care nu poți să-ți faci viața. Adică n-ai acces la viața ta. Și atunci vii într-o situație în care decât stai și ajungi la mila altora. Da? Oricând putem să venim, oricare ca și cerșetor, să știți. Pentru că nu poți să, adică vii într-o vibrație în care nu poți să treci de asta. Nu că n-ai vrea, nu poți să treci. Știm acest lucru. Practic nu putem judeca, nu ne putem judeca, pentru că noi înșine am fost în astfel de situații altădată. Sau vom fi. Nu știm circumstanțele fiecăruia. Există doar o judecată divină și la toți ne vine rândul la ea. Practic, chiar în rugăciunea Tatăl nostru, se spune așa: iartă-ne nouă păcatele noastre, precum și noi iertăm păcatele lor. Adică este cumva condițional iertarea între semenii noștri, ca noi să avem acces la iertarea divină noi personal. Dacă noi vrem ca Dumnezeu să ne ierte și viața noastră să fie bine, să avem de toate, noi trebuie să practicăm iertarea fiind un fel de monedă, da, spirituală, cum e banul aici, în matrice. Adică ce contează sus este calitatea iertării și a conștiinței. Asta e aurul spiritual. Acum, deci sensul este al iubirii și al iertării. Iertarea fiind iubire maximă. Asta spun. Acum, suntem ca societăți prinși în matrice, suntem sclavi ai propriilor reguli sociale greșite, pe care noi le-am înființăm, rigide și agresive, care, cum spuneați dumneavoastră, s-au transmis din generație în generație. Noi, ceilalți, deci, cu alte cuvinte, societatea suntem după gratii. Societatea este după gratii și nu vedem, gratile sunt ale ego-ului nostru. Adică suntem toți la închisoare.
Întreaga societate.
Da. Aceste armonizări sociale, da, adică practicarea iubirii în societate, ar trebui biserica să se ocupe de ele. Deci, în mod normal, biserica creștină ar trebui să propovăduiască cu fiecare armonia, da, și să iese cumva și să vorbească despre asta, mai ales în perioadele de cumpănă într-o țară. Când sunt oameni omorâți, când sunt oameni agresați, când există nedreptate pentru copii și pentru mame, ar trebui biserica să iese să spună. Dar noi avem, biserica noastră creștină-ortodoxă practică contemplarea, adică nu este intruzivă. Se roagă, deci, ați văzut și la colectiv, nu au participat foarte mult, ei se roagă pentru suflete și se spune așa, că dacă vor înceta toaca să bată în mănăstirile românești și în mănăstiri în general și nu vor mai fi măicuțe și persoane care se vor ruga, va cădea pământul, așa se spune. Că ce ne ține pe noi sunt rugăciunile din mănăstiri. Pe noi ca oameni, pe toți. Cu alte cuvinte, este foarte importantă și biserica. Acum, dacă biserica nu se implică, când poate ea ar trebui, și societatea nu este imprinsă în matrice, mai există persoane, da, care sunt dezvoltate, care sunt upgradate și la partea socială, dar sunt dezvoltate și spiritual, care ar putea să facă această trecere pe care nu o face biserica, adică să explice oamenilor partea aceasta spirituală, să explice oamenilor că sunt în ego, că sunt în matrice, că e agresivitate, că nu e în regulă. Că noi de fapt nu suntem așa, că noi suntem ființe spirituale, că avem suflet.
Să ne preocupăm de sufletul.
Da.
Să ne facem timp pentru
exact. Și pentru că, vedeți, medicul de medicină holistică și-a dezvoltat al 6-lea simț de care vorbim și o să vedem în film că este de fapt primul nostru simț, cum spuneam, dar noi utilizăm mai degrabă emisfera stângă, nu lucrăm cu dreapta, pentru că acest al 6-lea simț ține de emisfera dreaptă și noi n-am lucrat cu asta. Și atunci, dacă toți am lucrat cum lucrează medicul de medicină holistică, cum lucrez eu, care sunt o persoană științifică și spirituală în același timp, trebuie să știți că am înțelege toți cauzalitatea lucrurilor. Adică am înțelege ce se întâmplă dincolo de ce vedem. Pentru că nu întotdeauna e ce vedem, s-ar putea ca în spatele a ce vedem să fie altceva. De exemplu, să fie o agendă ascunsă, că am avut emisiuni de acest lucru. Vedeți, medicul de medicină holistică este și un om de știință și este și un om spiritual. De aceea avem emisiuni de știință și spiritualitate aici. Acum, noi nu investigăm deci numai partea fizică, noi investigăm și partea medicală și pe cea a emoțiilor și pe cea a sufletului. Deci noi lucrăm cu durerile sufletului. Noi le înțelegem cel mai bine ca și preoții, aceste dureri sufletești. Acum, analizăm mai profund, datorită dezvoltării spirituale, s-ar putea să înțelegem altfel lucrurile. Și vedeți, de cele mai multe ori ne ferim să facem asta, pentru că, da, eu sunt medic, pot să fiu un profesor, pot să fiu o persoană care intră în societate și spunem că nu trebuie să ne dăm cu părerea, pentru că acest lucru ar însemna politică și că noi nu avem dreptul ca oameni de știință să facem politică. Acum, cine face lumea politică? De fapt, ce înseamnă politica? Politica înseamnă cum este condusă societatea. Acum, din societate facem parte și noi. Cu alte cuvinte, fiecare membru al societății poate să facă politică oricând. Pentru că trăim. Exact. Și pentru că fiecare să ne dăm cu părerea, mai ales când nu este în regulă. Atunci chiar trebuie să punem umărul toți, să vedem ce este bine și ce nu este bine. Pe de altă parte, vedeți, dacă noi stăm să ne gândim ce este ce mai important pentru noi, cel mai important nu este să ne bătem unii cu alții, să nu ne iertăm unii pe alții și să fim agresivi și să cultivăm nedreptatea, da? Pentru că nu și să judecăm, mai ales că nu știm exact care a fost situația. Nu știm, nu avem voie să judecăm. Știți, asta este emisferii stângi, judecata. Noi trebuie să știți că venim aici ca sens să ne apropiem de Dumnezeu. Ori noi în momentul ăsta, la scena socială care se întâmplă în momentul ăsta în România, suntem foarte departe de Dumnezeu la ce se întâmplă. Avem neiertare, avem autoagresiune, ne agresăm singuri. Da? Și exact cum spunea domnul Dan Puric în emisiune, dacă ați urmărit cumva o emisiune pe care a ținut-o de curând, spunea că în România există un cancer invizibil care omoară și ce este bine și ce este rău. Acum, ca medic pot să confirm că este așa. Exact așa se întâmplă. Adică nu mai știm să alegem binele de, cum se zice?
De rău. Să
da.
discernem binele de rău.
Neghina de babele de grâu. Nu mai știm de ce, pentru că judecăm cu emisfera stângă, nu judecăm cu emisfera dreaptă. Dacă am judecat cu emisfera stângă, ar fi vorba despre iubire și nu ar mai fi vorba despre agresiune. Acum, deci, faptele bune, iubirea, compasiunea, noi cu asta plecăm. Noi dăm examenul în această viață despre câtă iubire și compasiune avem. Asta e tema noastră. Noi dacă lucrăm așa cum lucrăm acum, nu ne facem temele. Și noi trebuie să spunem oamenilor acest lucru, că oamenii nu știu. Biserica nu spune, nu sunt școli pentru emisfera dreaptă și trebuie să înțelegem acest lucru. Practic, plecăm, cu conștiința noastră. Cu cât am reușit noi să o dezvoltăm în această viață noastră. Și acum o să punem ultimul nostru filmuleț.
Basic matter, the flesh, the emotions, the feelings, nature that we have as humans is not markedly different than what animals have. And certainly we see that in the higher primates who are closer to us in not only their DNA, but in their behavior and in their social behavior and their interaction with one another. So we cannot assume any longer that we're really not animals, that we're apart from nature in this regard. That's an old myth that's utterly wrong. We call our intuitive capabilities our sixth sense, and that's just dead wrong. They should be called our first sense. We have become more left brain and screened out these intuitive right brain capabilities that seem to be natural, that seem to be a part of our basic nature.
If we go back in time, anywhere between 1,500 and 2,000 years, if we go back in time that far, we discover that most cultures of the world were mystical. And mystical means that the soul has continuity. Mystical means that we exist in body and we exist in spirit. What has happened over the last 1,500 years is that we have become very scientific, we need to be very grounded, and many groups of people have lost the belief structure that the soul has continuity and lives lifetime to lifetime and in between lifetimes.
Belief systems have been handed down through the ages. Now, you have an opportunity, through what we do, in a way, to explore that. You know, look into that belief system. Can you turn that belief into a known? Or is it just a belief system? The only way you do that is through exploration. That is the key.
From space, the heavens are 10 times as bright because of the lack of intervening atmosphere. So that means 10 times as numerous stars. So what happened is I was looking at that. And as I had learned from my astronomy studies and my astronomy studies at MIT inside, a unity, a connectedness to all of that. And that was a new experience. It was a powerful experience, an ecstasy, accompanied by a blissful feeling. And this continued when I had a few moments to look out the window, all the way home for 3 days. And I realized I had to understand what this experience was. It was far beyond anything I had experienced before.
You've asked this question about what happens to me? What happens to who I really am if I'm not in the physical body? And I would say, what happens to the person who is having a dream? You're in the middle of a dream, and then suddenly you wake up. Well, what happened to the thing you were during the dream? It just sort of vanishes.
We're stuck in metaphor, and that's where we get into all this trouble, because we think of it going somewhere. But how can it go if there's nowhere to go? There's no, I could say, well, my consciousness goes from here to Memphis, Tennessee, and that's where I'm going to be. That's where my consciousness is going to be buried, because I like the Memphis blues. Or my consciousness goes to the planet Mars because I always wanted to be there. But it doesn't go anywhere because it doesn't have any place to go to. It is omnipresent.
If we study the concepts particularly of Hinduism and other belief structures that are tied to the Sufi belief and the Zoroastrian belief structure, again we find that those belief systems, beyond the shadow of a doubt, believe that we remain in body. When our soul dies, our soul is exited out of our bodies, and our souls will live again in a body.
The Eastern mystical point of view, and what I think quantum physics is suggesting to me anyway, is that that's not the whole answer. That somehow matter comes out of mind rather than mind coming out of matter. And that changes things. Or maybe better put, both mind and matter are different illusions of this deeper reality, which is neither mind nor matter, but somehow both.
So quantum mechanics has been around all of the 20th century. It is the major development of the 20th century that has allowed most of our physics technology and our new modern technology to be what it is. It also allowed the thinkers of the period to realize that body-mind were interactive, and that maybe we were going to have to look at consciousness after all within science, whereas before it had been considered the realm of theology and philosophy.
One of the concepts is that consciousness itself is a non-local phenomena. That means in consciousness we are unified everywhere, every when. It is our focus of attention or our alignment, what we pay attention to in one particular moment. Right now I'm paying attention to being in the body, but that doesn't mean that I don't exist everywhere, every when. All particles, all things have these dual components, a local manifestation and a non-local existence. So perhaps then being more than our physical bodies is identifying with, paying attention to that non-localness of who we are.
So existence and information are the basis not only of our being, but our knowing, and why we know anything at all.
Spirit is the fundamental vibration of nothing. But by nothing, I mean the absolute void of which everything comes. It's the spiritual vacuum, if you will, the void out of which everything arises. It may be related to the physical vacuum, which we know is capable of, once being energized, of producing particles and antiparticles, which is the particle-antiparticle circus, which arises from particle physics that we know about. Because mind, consciousness, this mysterious essence of who we are, doesn't have a space-time coordination. The common thought is it's as big as the body, and it'll last as long as a lifetime. You're born, you live, and then you die. And then your body decays into dust. And before that, you're just dust and eggs and water, and starts fertilizing in DNA and blah, 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 and all electrical sparks start flying, and pretty soon there's a fetus, and the fetus becomes a baby, and all of that, you know, is somehow the notion that consciousness is contained within the unit of the body.
So basically, when our soul is new, when our soul is young, is born, we might say, we are assigned a spirit guide.
We look at anecdotal evidence, and there's so much of it right now. Death experiences, children that are born with memories of aunts or uncles or even grandparents that had died years before the child was even born. There's many cases of this in India, of so-called reincarnation memories. I don't know, if you read these accounts, they seem to be pretty sensible to me.
And that has allowed us now to take quantum physics and start to explore it in quite a new way in the last several years, and to open brand new doors that have never been opened before in understanding ourselves, in understanding the deepest realms of bio-nature, and understanding consciousness itself.
More and more mainstream America, if you will, are opening to these type of experiences because so many people are now having them, or recognizing they're having it and being awake to having it. I think there's a coming together of, let's say, science and spirituality. It seems that it's more of a coming together of that. And when I say spirituality, not necessarily religion. My father was a successful businessman in New York back in the late 40s, early 50s. He was the producer of over 50 radio shows. And being the left-brain successful businessman he was, when he started having these out-of-body experiences, he really questioned what and why was this happening to him? What was this out-of-body state? So he looked to Western science to give him the answer, which is how we came up with the process known as Hemi-Sync, which is a sound technology. And in using certain frequencies in the sound technology, combinations of certain frequencies, we're able to help people move into these different states of consciousness, different states of awareness.
We have means to let people know they are more than their physical body. And knowing you are more than your physical body is the beginning of knowing that you survived physical death.
He influenced a lot of thinking, and because of his books, a lot of people began to experiment with out-of-body experience. I got influenced by it because it no longer became something I didn't recognize when it happened. The problem is, until somebody like Robert Monroe steps into the world and says, this is something that happens, people don't try to do it. They don't. It may have happened to them, but they don't. It's like a blur, you don't see it. When somebody says, this is that, then you begin to recognize it when you have that experience.
The ability to tune into this consciousness, to become aware of your out-of-body state, I think is the true question. It's not who has the ability to get out of their body and who doesn't. It's who becomes aware, who has the ability to become aware.
The only thing we ask you to consider is that you are more than your physical body. Just consider that. And through that, the Hemi-Sync technology helps you really move into knowing that, not just believing it, but because it's able to put you into a relaxed state. First of all, that's the key of anything, is to move into a totally relaxed state. And once you're there, you begin to open up and expand into the energy that you are, which is more than your physical body.
And we've known for years and years that when you can be in that very deeply relaxed place, then we let go of our defenses, we let go of blocks and obstacles that perhaps get in the way of exploring, and so from that place of deep relaxation, then we can open up to all kinds of possibilities.
Ancient cultures have been doing this through rhythmic drumming, through dance, and through chanting and rituals for thousands of years in many, many, many cultures. The technology of stereo and Dolby Digital surround sound is something new to the 20th and 21st century. We have found a way to use that modern day technology to do what cultures have been doing for thousands of years. we use an audio guidance system to alter brainwave states, accompanied by relaxation procedures and meditative procedures that allow people to develop an awareness of information and concepts not ordinary to our waking state.
Well, death is the big unfocus. Letting go. Suddenly, all of those things which were so important to you, almost your whole life, will, in a flash, be totally unimportant to you. It may take a couple of days, I don't know how long, before you finally recognize that you're not that body anymore, or you're not even concerned with the whole life and death drama of that lifetime.
And in the moment of your death, that force dissolve and let go everything. No longer recognize any piece of you anymore. But the soul comes from life, which means from spirit or from God.
Essentially, our soul is waves of light and color. Our soul is energy. And so when our soul is released out of our physical body, essentially what happens is the energy vibrations heighten so that our soul is able to leave our body. And our body is very dense and low and of a vibrational nature. And when our soul leaves at the point of death, those energy vibrations, we might say, speed up. And that's how the soul is released out of the body.
When a person goes through their own death in a past life regression, it's usually very easy for them to leave their body and to realize that they've died.
We are living in a physical body that is alive because of us. We give life to this physical body. Mind exists because we give life to that mind. Without us, the physical body will disappear, will become dust, and the mind will be dissolved. What we really are is life, and life is eternal. It never ends. It never begins. But it's shifting, it's growing, it's transforming, and there is nothing but transformation. It's ourselves getting out of that physical body, ourselves getting out of that mind, of that world of illusion.
Think of it as when you're looking through a lens or a telescope or a pair of binoculars. If you look through it and the image is sharp, that's called focused. As you turn the dials, they start to get blurry. That's called defocusing or unfocusing. Now, an unfocused image is that the light from the object is going through many different pathways to reach your eye, so that your eye is getting the light from different directions all at the same time, and it appears blurry. So if you think of it, it's a good analogy to parallel reality. Parallel realities, you're seeing all the realities coming through at once, rather than just a single reality, a single focus reality. And these two processes, focusing and defocusing, are things that we do naturally as we begin to learn new things, as we begin to let go of old ways of thinking so we can learn new things again. This is sort of the process of life.
I had passed away. It was a very peaceful death. I had my family around me. Again, that life was kind of a quiet life, a lonely life. There was not a lot of family. I didn't have children, and as I looked down at it, I felt very calm and peaceful and spiritual. And then I experienced a light. It was a bright light, and then kind of a purplish light. And I was just kind of floating along. And as I floated along, I was greeted by my spirit guide, and his name was Peter. And he was wearing a white flowing robe, had a gold cord wrapped around it, with long hair, appeared to be an older person, very calming and very open. And I was then guided along until I saw a building, a structure. What I saw was columns, and it was a big hall. And in the hall there was mosaics on the wall, one wall, and tapestry on the other. Just a huge hall with real tall ceilings.
It is still the great mystery. What is it that's ongoing? What is it that survives? Well, certainly our recent work shows that the information survives. The information in holographic form that nature preserves in this quantum hologram is a record of our life. And in ancient lore, they recognize this as well, but they call it the Akashic record. The Akashic record is the record of life and was recognized very well by the ancients. We are now starting to see that, and we call it the zero-point energy field with its quantum hologram is the equivalent of, or is like the Akashic record, or they're kind of one and the same.
And we find that people may be very familiar with the territory. Once they're out of the body and have kind of said their farewells, they know exactly where they're going and go there. And they're not met by anyone at all, but they're not lonely. There are people who are met by a whole soul group, and it's almost like a party. Like they've got a big welcome home party, and it's very festive.
Then that space in between the planets is what the Toltecs call the Nahual. Now, what gives life to the Nahual, which is light, and what gives life to the tonal, which is matter, is what they call intent. And intent is a force that moves everything and put everything together. I call it life. The Toltecs know that the space in between planets there was not empty. It's full of light. There's no space in the entire universe of change of universe who is empty. In between atoms, in between stars, in between planets, always exists light.
What the quantum hologram is, it's based on the well-known fact that matter emits and reabsorbs quanta of energy, photons, at the most basic level of nature. And that those photons have a non-local interconnection, regardless of where they go thereafter. They are interconnected. Take the quantum emissions from any body of matter, from a human to a chair to anything, that you study it as a group, it is carrying unique information in the event history of that object. Wow, this is a rather fundamental discovery, because it is saying that information at the quantum level in nature is as important as in energy itself. What the physicists tell us is that when particles are entangled in a process at the subatomic level, and they go across the universe from each other, should they maintain a correlation, a coherence. And if something happens to one particle, it is instantaneously known or recognized by the other particle, regardless of where they are in the universe. That's instantaneous communication. That's called non-locality.
How would one experience that subjectively? What is your subjective experience of non-locality? Many people experience it as an out-of-body state, an out-of-body situation. We've heard about this when we think of a near-death experience. people seem to float out or perceive themselves to be some way distant from the physical body. The question comes up, is there then a separate body or a second body? Many people have a philosophic opinion that there is a spirit body or a soul. If we can become aware of information that's not available to the physical senses, it's available only if we are non-locally aware. Something in the future, something in the past, something distant in space from us, something that we couldn't know with our physical senses, and that information comes to us, therein lies the proof. How else could we possibly know this but that we were more than our physical bodies?
In quantum physics, not only is it not considered to be crazy, it's considered to be a way to understand the nature of the real reality, the so-called real reality that we're in. And it's used every day. In fact, a whole new field is developed based upon this idea called quantum computers and quantum computation. And in the years to come, we're going to see more and more of this new idea emerging, and parallel realities are even going into them and taking a photograph and bringing it back out again. They may not be science fiction. That may be something we're going to be doing soon. So I think right now this is an exciting time to be thinking about the relationship of mind and consciousness to quantum physics.
So there is the ability for energy to exist outside of time and space. The spiritual realm essentially has no time frame. The time frame exists here on Earth. The spiritual realm exists outside of a time frame. It's very hard to interrelate what happens in the spiritual realm and what happens in the earthly realm. So then people ask about a life between lives regression. They'll say, I desire to have an LBL regression, but which between life am I going to visit?
Well, one alternative is to say they're in alternative realities or worlds or universes even, and that these are there but they're parallel and invisible to us, because once we've chosen to see reality one way, it gets blocked from us to see this other way. It's like blinders that get put on. We can't see the other reality. But in the other reality, the same thing is going on. We can't see the world that we're in, because in the other reality we're seeing that world. And so these parallel realities are also all occurring simultaneously.
When we travel into the spiritual realm, into the between life, in an LBL regression, we basically, all of our between lives collapse into one another, if you will, and we step into what we often call now time. So we're learning about our spiritual experiences based on what is happening presently in our earthly life. The spirit world is the spirit world in the sense that we have many belief structures that say the spirit world is segmented. There's a positive place and a not so positive place. That kind of information has never come through in thousands of life between life regressions. And so the spirit world is open to anyone and everyone. We are not blocked at a certain point and disallowed entry depending on what we have or haven't done in our life. The spirit world does appear different, regression to regression. For some souls, particularly for souls who are not of high level of experience, there is almost a meeting place that exists. Reminds me of a train or a bus station where when the soul has left the body, and it comes in to spend time as it's crossing over. There's often a sort of a meeting place where the soul can be met by loved ones, where the soul is assisted in orienting, in adjusting to being in the spiritual realm. It's almost slowing down the process of moving into the spiritual realm.
It's a state that offers an opportunity for amazing learnings and insight into, and not only insight into, but participation in planning how things might unfold, here, both here on the earth, in individual lives, in other parts of the physical and non-physical world.
We all have soul groups consisting of 3 to 10 or 12 members that are together because we all have something in common. And that's a good question to ask. What is it that brings you all together? What are you doing together in the spirit world? And usually people are very clear about that. And it may be that they're doing work together, or they may be working on similar lessons together.
The coordinating body of the spiritual realm is comprised of souls that have finished their incarnation on earth. They've progressed to a particular level. They then work at, we use these words higher, lower, and it's hard not to use those words. They work at a higher level of wisdom, but they are ultimately coordinated by a highest level of wisdom that we all choose to label in different ways.
At this moment, the quantum holographic theory can easily explain the experiences of reincarnation. And in fact, it explains better than classical notion of reincarnation. It explains better why many people feel that they are reincarnations of the same person. Cleopatra, Ptolemy, Jesus, whomever. There are many people believe they're reincarnations of the person. Well, with quantum holographic theory, that's quite possible. It's just information that you can access.
I know that it all makes sense. This is not just a happenstance. I didn't just born and I'm just not going to die. I was born, I chose, I created, I co-created, I came in with a purpose. I picked the people to be my parents for a reason. I took the paths that I'd chosen because I came here to continue what I didn't finish. I'm real anchored in that.
For many years, I thought a new age of enlightenment was approaching, that delving into these areas, trying to understand the deeper nature of our perceptions, intuitive information, quantum information, and I still think that is the way to the future.
As a soul, do we always have free will to make choice about anything? Absolutely yes. And are we fallible? Do we sometimes make, we might say, not the best choices? Yes, of course. Are we advised by our guides and teachers from a higher level? Yes, we are advised, but we still have the ability to make decisions.
Basically, I believe that we are here to be co-creators with God. We are here to experience oneness. We are here to experience joy. Whether or not you choose to carry all the wisdom and all the knowledge and the knowing of everything, I don't really think is that important. I believe that if you're happy and you're truly happy and you're living your life exactly as you want it to be, you're doing it.
Because everybody in the world can do their best. Everyone.
What is the point? Why do we come into body? Why am I or anyone else incarnate at this time? And I think the absolute bottom line is we are here in body for the purpose of progression, both our own progression and the progression of other souls and how we impact other souls.
And yes, they can do better, but in order to do better, they need to have more awareness, to be more aware. If they have more awareness, the best will be better and better and better.
There's no ultimate destiny because the universe has been created in such a way that we can create new destinies. And I think our ultimate destiny would be to recognize that we are the creators of our destiny.
In my opinion, only by using the best of our rational and our intuitive faculties and the best of our scientific technologies and protocols will we ever be able to tease out of nature these secrets that are very elusive right now.
Dragi telespectatori, aici se încheie emisiunea de astăzi. Până data viitoare, vă dorim armonie în suflet.
Să fiți credincioși și sănătoși!